She was already yelling before I even stepped out of my truck. "This is private property. You and that mutt don't belong here." My hands were full with groceries. My service dog walking calmly at my side, wearing his vest clear as day. I didn't even look at her. I'd been dealing with her for weeks now. But then it happened so fast. She reached into her bag, pulled out a spray can, and blasted my dog right in the face. He yelped and stumbled back, eyes watering, while I dropped everything to help him. My heart pounded in my ears. "Are you out of your mind? That's a service animal." She just smirked, shaking the empty can. "You can't prove that. This neighborhood doesn't allow big dogs. I'll call the HOA and have you thrown out." I grabbed my phone to dial the vet when she suddenly snatched it right out of my hand. "No cameras. No proof. I warned you." Her voice was shrill, her face red with anger. I was kneeling beside my dog, trying to wipe his eyes, when I saw flashing lights at the end of the street. She had already called the cops, and the smug look on her face told me she thought she had won. The first officer stepped out of the car, and before I could even speak, she screamed, "Arrest him. He's dangerous, he brought an attack dog into our community." I stood there, frozen, one hand on my dog's harness. My chest was tight, not from fear, but from anger. The officer looked at me, then at my dog trembling beside me. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. The cop's eyes narrowed, then he turned to her. "Ma'am, do you realize what you just did? Spraying a federally protected service animal is a federal crime." Her smile dropped instantly. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. It was like someone had ripped the floor out from under her. I just stayed quiet, watching her face drain of color, waiting for her to realize this was only the beginning. Her eyes darted back and forth like she was searching for an escape. A crime. No, you don't understand. He threatened me. That dog tried to attack me." She stammered, pointing at my service dog who was still whimpering on the ground. The cop didn't even flinch. "Ma'am, he's wearing a service vest. Federal law protects him. What you just did could land you in prison." For the first time since I moved into that neighborhood, she looked scared. But fear didn't keep her quiet. She doubled down, her voice trembling but loud. Enough for the neighbors peeking through their blinds to hear. "He's lying. That's not even his house. He squats here with that beast, he doesn't belong in this community." I could feel the anger building inside me, but I kept my voice calm. "You want to play games with ownership, Karen? Fine. You picked the wrong person." I reached into my truck, pulled out a leather folder, and handed it to the officer. Inside were the original property deeds, signed by me and notarized months before she even started her little HOA crusade. The officer flipped through them, then raised an eyebrow at her. Karen's mouth fell open. She shook her head violently. No, that can't be real. The HOA has rules he's breaking." The cop crossed his arms. "Funny you say that. Because we've had a few complaints about fake HOA notices showing up on people's doors. Neighbors said they had your handwriting on them." Her face froze. She tried to laugh it off, but her voice cracked. "That's ridiculous. Why would I?" Her words trailed off when the second patrol car pulled up, lights flashing brighter than before. 2 more officers stepped out. One of them looked directly at me and nodded, like he already knew who I was. Karen's eyes widened. "Wait, why are there more cops?" she whispered, her hands starting to shake. I leaned down, gently resting my hand on my dog's head as he blinked his irritated eyes open. Then I looked straight at her and said, "Because this isn't just about a dog anymore. This is about every lie you've told." Karen's lips trembled, but her pride wouldn't let her stay quiet. "This is harassment. He's tricking all of you, he doesn't even belong here. I run this community, not him." Her voice cracked as she pointed at me like a desperate child. The first officer raised a hand. "Ma'am, lower your voice. You're not in charge here." That was the moment I decided not to hold back anymore. I stood up straight, squared my shoulders, and met their eyes. You think I don't belong here? Lady, I served this country for 12 years. I bought this land with money I bled for. And you think a fake HOA flyer is enough to scare me off? The second officer, the one who nodded earlier, stepped closer. Sergeant Miller, right. 82nd Airborne. His tone was different, respectful. Karen's jaw nearly hit the pavement. She looked from him to me, her face pale as chalk. You're military. She whispered, her voice barely audible. I didn't answer her. I looked at the cop instead. She sprayed my service dog, stole my phone, and tried to trespass me off my own property. How far do we let this go? My words hung heavy in the air. The officer nodded grimly. Not far. He reached for his radio, calling something in. Karen panicked. No. No, you can't do this. I was just protecting the neighborhood. She spun around, shouting at the gathering neighbors. You all know me. You know I keep this place safe. But the silence from behind those curtains and cracked doors told her everything. Nobody was on her side anymore. Then, just as the cops moved toward her, she pulled another stunt. She fished a folded paper from her purse and waved it high. See? I have authority. This is an official HOA violation notice. She screamed. But the wind caught it, and the paper slipped from her shaky hands. It fluttered to the ground, landing right at the officer's boots. He picked it up, studied it for a moment, and then looked at her with a smirk. Nice try. This isn't even printed on official HOA letterhead. Looks like you just exposed yourself. And for the first time that night, Karen had no words. Just when it looked like she had finally been cornered, a tow truck rumbled up the street. Headlights cutting through the crowd of watching neighbors. My stomach dropped. Karen's smirk came rushing back as she pointed right at my truck. Yes. That's it. Take it away, he's been illegally parked here for weeks. I filed the complaint myself. The tow driver jumped down, clipboard in hand. Got an order right here. Says HOA violation, vehicle unauthorized. He didn't even look at me. He just started hooking chains under my front tires. My dog barked weakly, pulling closer to my leg. I clenched my fists. That's my truck. My name is on the title and the deed to the land it sits on. If you tow that, you're stealing my property. The driver shrugged like he'd heard it 1,000 times. Talk to the HOA. I'm just doing my job. Karen folded her arms, triumphant again. See? Rules are rules. Maybe now you'll finally leave. She was loud enough for every neighbor outside to hear. It was humiliation, designed and timed perfectly. She thought she had won back the power. The first officer snapped at the driver. Hold up. Where's the authorization? Who signed off on this tow? The man flipped the paper around, and sure enough, it was signed, K. Saunders, HOA President. The officer raised an eyebrow. Funny. There's no HOA President listed under that name. Karen's smile twitched, but she forced it to stay. That's a clerical error. Everyone here knows I run this place. I stepped closer, calm but cold. You just ordered a private tow on a truck sitting on private property. That's not a clerical error, that's grand theft. The driver froze, his hand still on the chain. The officer's radio crackled. And the dispatcher's voice came through, be advised. Suspect may have filed multiple false HOA complaints. Pending fraud investigation. Karen's face drained. The cop slowly turned back toward her. And then, she did the unthinkable. She grabbed my arm, yanking me forward, and screamed. The moment her nails dug into my arm and she shrieked, he attacked me. The entire street seemed to freeze. The neighbors gasped, a couple of them even pulling out their phones to record. My dog barked, straining against his harness, sensing the sudden tension. For a split second, I thought the cops might actually believe her. The younger officer stepped forward. Hand hovering near his cuffs, eyes flicking between us. Karen saw that hesitation and pushed harder. She clutched her arm like I had twisted it, staggering backward in a fake stumble. Look. He hurt me. Arrest him before he hurts anyone else. The anger boiled in my chest, but I forced myself to stay perfectly still. No sudden moves. No shouting. Just silence. I knew my restraint would speak louder than her theatrics. The older officer narrowed his eyes. Funny, ma'am. You're claiming he assaulted you, but... He gestured toward the houses. We've got 3 different cameras on this block pointing right at you. You sure you want us to pull the footage? Karen froze, her fake wince fading instantly. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. The younger cop lowered his hand slowly, his suspicion turning back on her. You grabbed him first, he said carefully. I saw it myself. I finally spoke, my voice calm but sharp. This is what she does. Lies, threats, fake authority. But you just crossed the line. Karen. You tried to frame a veteran on his own land. The older officer stepped closer to her now. His tone dropped. Ma'am, filing false police reports is a serious crime. Combine that with impersonating HOA authority, animal cruelty, and attempted theft. He clicked his cuffs open with a sharp snap. You're in a lot deeper than you realize. Her face twisted with desperation. She spun toward the neighbors, shouting at the phones recording her meltdown. Stop filming me. This isn't fair. I was only trying to protect the community. But the crowd didn't move, they just kept filming, capturing every word. And as the officer grabbed her wrist, she let out one last scream, you don't know who I am. I have connections, you'll regret this. But the look on the cop's face told me. She had just signed her own downfall. As the officer started walking Karen toward the patrol car, she kept shouting, her voice cracking with desperation. You're making a mistake. My lawyer will have me out in an hour. You'll regret crossing me. She twisted and pulled, but the cuffs stayed locked. The crowd of neighbors had fully come out now, phones in the air. Whispers cutting through the night. For the first time, they weren't afraid of her. They were seeing her for who she really was. I knelt by my dog, gently pouring water over his eyes. He blinked, licked my hand, and let out a low whine. Relief washed over me. The vet would take care of him, and he'd be all right. The tow truck driver quietly unhooked my truck and muttered. Didn't sign up for this mess. Before climbing back into his cab and driving off without another word. Karen tried one last time, her voice breaking. I am the HOA. You can't do this. The officer opened the back door of the cruiser and shoved her inside. Ma'am, you're not the HOA. You're under arrest. The door slammed, and the sound echoed down the street. I stood up, brushing dirt from my jeans. The younger cop turned to me, his voice steady but respectful. Sir, we'll need your statement. And we'll make sure Animal Control is aware this was a service dog. She'll face federal charges for that. I nodded, my jaw tight. I didn't fight for this country. Just to come home and be told I can't park my own truck. Or walk my own dog on my own land. The neighbors were silent for a moment, then one started clapping. Another joined in. Soon the entire street was applauding. Their faces lit with a mix of relief and satisfaction. For the first time since moving in, I didn't feel like an outsider. I felt like I belonged. And as the cruiser carrying Karen disappeared into the night, I knew one thing for sure, her reign of fear over this neighborhood was finally over. Justice had spoken.